Well, I don't know if you guys have paid close attention to what's been happening. The U.S. Mint, they kind of fly under the radar with certain things. They kind of sort of announce a website redesign, which is fine. A lot of companies, a lot of businesses, they do this as a way of kind of rebranding things. Make it up to date, make it more visually eye appealing. The internet world, as we know it, has kind of fast forward into this evolution of predominantly advertising geared toward type of I don't know, design, if that makes any sense, using all of the basic psychology that it takes to captivate and capture your business. In this fast paced world that we live in now, where we have TikTok Shop and we have Facebook Marketplace and everything like that. There's just this wide evolution in which how we conduct business, how we're able to do business, both on the seller side and the buyer side, and it's unprecedented. And I think that's predominantly the big reason why that big brick and mortar stores are disappearing right before our very eyes. That's why there's no Toys R Us. That's why that Sears had gone bankrupt. Well, I have various. It's not theories. I mean, when it slaps you in the face, it's not theory. It is what it is. But Sears disappeared. Just because of poor money management. But when we look at the Mint website today, there's a few distinct things that's happening here, and I feel like that the Mint had never really announced what's going to happen in 2026. But you guys know that it's going to be integrated. It's not going to be talked about that much, but it will be a big, hard, cold slap in the face. By the time you figure out what's going on here, you guys will probably be surprised, and after a few minutes of trying to go through the stages of coping, you're going to learn to accept the way that business is done on the U.S. Mint. So, as far as a general glance of what we got going on here, okay, compared to the previous iteration of what the U.S. Mint website looked like, the one big thing that I could see that is very favorable to us. I mean, shoot, I'm all about trying to establish some sort of ownership of an item before I even have it in my hot hands. And a large part of that is presentation. The quality of these images and photos are second to none, and they did not look remotely close to being at this particular level last year when we were dealing with the old website design. Now, we were all kind of like duped, right? We had the veil, the wool pulled over our eyes. I can't even talk. It's Monday. We had this wool pulled over our eyes, like, oh, the website sucks to order from, So we're going to implement all these changes. All the while, we're just going to sneakily go in there and redesign the website. And psychologically, it's designed so that way you buy more from us. That, in part, the photos, the quality, how large they've gotten from the previous generation of the US Mint website to where it is today, is one of those big changes that, you and I, as consumers and collectors, we don't see this really as that. But deep down in our brain, our psychology, we've learned to accept that bigger, bolder, more eye-grabbing type of images is just the way to go, and it really makes a huge impact on whether or not we decide to buy that item or not. Because when the images suck, I guarantee you the overall quality of the process is going to suck even further. Why would I buy a $30 t-shirt from a vendor that has a thumbnail picture that's about as big as my thumbnail, literally my thumbnail, and when you try and click on it, it's pixelated, and they only accept Cash App as their checkout. There's a lot of kind of like red flags that go along with that. It's like, where's my product made? is it made overseas or is it made here in the USA? So, I mean, obviously, a lot of what you see here is made in the USA. You know, I probably can't really say so much as the actual packaging that all of the Mint products come into, but you see that just how vivid and very colorful the US Mint all of a sudden got, you know, because, you know, if you took away the large images that we see, you know, the gold looks like gold, the silver looks like silver, we're just left with a white hot mess. You know, literally the base color of the website's white. They have a nice, you know, kind of like a dark blue, navy blue banner on there, and that's kind of what we've lived with over the last like 10 plus years. But now the game has changed. But was there an ulterior motive as to this change? And it might play into what's going to happen next year in 2026, which is going to be an unprecedented event. Now, for some of you that think that the US Mint is not a business, I call just thorough bullshit on that, because they're selling product at a much higher level, much higher cost above, you know, what the cost it takes to produce the items. If the price of silver is $32 an ounce, why are they selling a silver proof set, and we're using last year's number, why are they selling it for $155 when you know damn well there's barely over an ounce of silver into things? You know, why are they selling proof Silver Eagles for $100 when there's $32 in silver in them? All right, and again, the U.S. Mint had said, well, you know, the rising costs of the raw products and materials, you know, has really made us, you know, make this move to make everything more expensive. Well, no shit, you do that every single year. You know, that little 2 to 5% bump that they do every year, we probably don't see it on a micro scale, but on a much macro scale, a larger picture. You know, over time, over like 5 years, that $25 US Mint product now all of a sudden is $35. So, you know, we don't see it in those little small kind of like steps. We see it as just, okay, you know, here we are a year later, the product's nicer, you know, they got a bitchin' website, they got to pay for the client, you know, for the website maintenance and things like that. Obviously, they're going to have to raise the prices of certain things, right? They got to pay their employees more money, you know, because, you know, you just do that. You take care of the people that run the show and create the product. A second thing that they eliminated from the previous iteration of the US Mint website, and oh boy, this is quite ingenious. Guess what? On the main page where we see all the product, guess what is not on there? Price. Price used to be on there on the last iteration of that website. It's not on there now. Again, this is playing into the psychology of the items and you falling in love with them. How are they doing that? They're going to show you these big, bold images of all the products that they have for sale. They want you to fall in love with the product before they decide to just hit you up with that cash, because they know their shit's expensive. All right. If we went to the 4-coin American Gold Eagle set, we click on that boy, and I'm like, woo, man, you know, I fell in love with it even before I clicked onto it because the images are great. And then you see that price tag of $7,737.50. You start to do a little bit of mathing. You're like, wait a minute. In total, there's not 2 ounces of gold in there, which would make it about $6,600. You know, you have a 1 ouncer, okay, $3,300 right there. You have a half ounce, you have a quarter ounce, and a 1/10 ounce. Guess what? The last 3 smaller denomination pieces don't quite add up to 1 ounce. It's a little bit less than that. So let's say, for argument's sake, $6,000. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, proof and just Gold Eagles in general command a much larger premium in today's market, but is a $1,700 premium justifiable for what we're getting here? You know, some people might see that, but guess what? Here we are. This product was released a while ago, and they have 10,000 sets made, but it says add to bag, which means it's still available right now as we speak. This one right here, I mean, this is a great looking product. I'm not disputing it. But this one released March 20. Almost just about 2 months ago. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, as of tomorrow. Today's the 19th, as we're doing this video. So, it's my understanding that you can also hop onto eBay and buy last year's 4-coin Gold Eagle set for much cheaper than $7,700. I believe it's right around $6,800 or something like that. So you're getting kind of what the melt spot price value is, with a little bit of a premium, and then integrating it into what the actual value is of the set, is what they're being sold for on the secondary market, that being eBay or various other websites. But on the good old US Mint websites, boy, they still have the add to bag button, and it further kind of solidifies the fact that the Mint is just really expensive all the way around, really expensive, and it's not going to get any better. So as we kind of pivot from what we have going on here to the conversation of 2026, in case you guys need a little bit of a refresher, 2026 is the 250th anniversary of our country. Kind of a big deal. The last time they did this campaign was back in 1976. You guys remember? Because Pepperidge Farm remembers. It was the 200th anniversary. It was kind of a big deal. They actually went and did without quarters, half dollars, and Eisenhower dollars, not bearing the 1975 date. They actually took the better part of 18 to 24 months to get things ready for the 1976 release of a few coins. It's not like that they had this huge, overly aggressive campaign like the US Mint has for 2026, when they're going to go through the trouble of redesigning the Roosevelt dime. They're going to redesign the quarters. They're going to redesign the half dollar into some big, huge deal. And then who knows what else they're going to do, right? They're probably going to do something with the Silver Eagles. They're going to do these standalone, singular products. And guess what? We're all going to fall in love with 2026. And it all ties into what we have going on here on the US Mint website. They're going to flash and dash all you guys, myself included, with these insane, amazing, beautiful, pop off the page imagery of all the 2026 releases. I guarantee you, what you're seeing now in 2025 product schedule of the US Mint, consider it going to be 2x the product in 2026. But get this, it's going to be a whole lot more expensive. They're going to be able to justify maybe not a 2 to 5% increase, but what if they adjusted the price on a lot of this product 10, 15, 20%? How about that uncirculated Silver Eagle with a fancy privy mark for the 250th anniversary that they're going to release? Why would they sell that for $55 when they're going to turn around and sell for nearly $100? It's all about the justification, right? You gotta have the price, but you also have to attach it to something that is meaningful to the collectors, to the people. And that is, my friends, is how the psychology of website design works. Is that, they take the things that mean a lot to us, that have a lot more personal kind of investment into it. The sense of ownership of a product, like, the Native American $1 coin 2025 rolls, bags, and boxes with that Mary Kiwanis Pukui design. I could envision myself owning a few of those rolls because I see the pictures right on screen. They are true to life as to what I would expect to receive direct from the US Mint. And, I've fallen in love. And in that case, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. Maybe the price may be a little bit more expensive, but I'm willing to justify it because I see all of these great images. The congratulations set, 2025, a nice Silver Eagle with a, the only thing really fancy about it is the COA. It's got the slider box with a printout of the bow on there. It's not even a real bow, ladies and gentlemen. But yet, I look at that, I'm like, my niece graduates high school this year. How about I get her one of those, I understand Silver Eagles typically trade in at a little bit higher premium compared to what melt value is. But hey, I'm willing to pay a little bit more money because I think this would be a bitchin' gift to give to my niece. All right, and I do have a niece that graduates this year from high school. So congratulations to her. Now, when I go to click this thing, wow, $97. Holy shit. But, deep down inside, the association by what you're receiving to the price, prior to the fact that that price tag was not on the previous screen with all the product for this year, means a whole lot more. There's kind of like a thread between the two. And when you don't have the price front and center, when you look at it, you gain more an emotional attachment to the item because, there's images, there's products. It begins to make you think, oh, this would be a great gift for XYZ or for this certain occasion. And again, it's all about the kind of sense of an ownership at that point. So when you click into it, you see, well, $97. It's a Proof Silver Eagle. Okay, so it's pretty good quality. They got even more photos that you can flip through here, and all that. I mean, ooh, look at that. It's even got a little insignia button right on the shell case. It's got a little to and from deal on the reverse. I could see paying $97 for this and be totally fine with it. All right. And that's the sick part to the game that we live in e-commerce is that you see the various improvements. And one thing for sure that people in general don't like is change, right? Change is inescapable in our lives. But when it comes to change with a lot of improvements like the US Mint had done, it is seriously a big deal. It's even more of a big deal, and it's kind of like positioned ever so conveniently right before 2026 happens. So I figure I'd let you guys know, while we have a few minutes to talk left on this video, that, this is going to be some sort of like hidden announcement. They're not going to, the Mint's not going to say, we have released the 2026 not only product lineup, but also the associated pricing. All right. You ever go back into the product catalog and there's an item that's going to be releasing later on that we're all looking forward to. That's why we hit the remind me button, just so we're aware of a certain item that comes out and we just want to be front and center when it does. Like let's say, for example, this here on June 5th, the 1 ounce gold uncirculated Eagle, right? 2025. People are going to be waiting for that, minted at West Point, kind of a big deal every year. Very popular, very hot. It says remind me. But if you ever click into the image, guess what? They have two TBD, which means to be determined, for the prices. They're setting that hook. And the TBD is something that they've always done from years past. Again, it's kind of like a bait and hook kind of thing, right? Even if you don't buy this, you might go back and buy the Proof Gold Eagle. All right, because that one's available, and that one's probably as close as you could get price-wise to what this one is. Now, granted, this one will sell at a tremendous premium, but, it's like, oh, shoot, I need this coin sooner than later. I'm not willing to wait till June 5th or whatever that date is to buy this. But boy, man, is it pretty, I think I might be justified in buying the 1 ouncer, which is still available for 2025. And then, guess what? The US Mint check marks a box of another sold Gold Eagle item. They'll profit their $500, $600, $700 off that one item or something sick and demented as far as that goes. And, as we as consumers, we're falling in love. Now, historically, when we look back at customer satisfaction indexes or indices or whatever, there are more people that are thoroughly satisfied for way more expensive product than they are the cheaper stuff. Take, for instance, I sell a lot of stuff on eBay. I sell hundreds of items every month on the platform. I have more people that are unhappy of their product when they've sold for under $5, which is just crazy to me, for whatever reason. You said that this particular coin or card or whatever I sold, it looks to be a certain way condition-wise, and it's not that. Therefore I'm going to ding you with a bad feedback, or I'm just going to return the item, which I prefer people return the item. But, when it comes to the more expensive stuff, people are happy like pigs in shit, and psychological kind of like thread of buyer mentality in that way is just kind of backwards, you know, and it's always been that way. When I was working in the car business, more people were pissed off and unhappy with the fact that they bought a base model Honda Civic over that, you know, $60,000 you know, platinum Honda Pilot. You know, I've never sold Honda, by the way. I sold Cadillacs, which is a high line, and there's no such thing as a cheap Cadillac. I mean, you know, 20 years ago, yeah, maybe quality wise, but you know, when we look at certain things like that, more people are pissed off that they got the base model Civic with the crank handles for the windows, which I don't care, stick shift. And they're like, well, I didn't even know how to drive stick shift. I still bought the car. I'm like, you know, that sucks. So I don't know. The same way goes with everything. Do you think that there are more unhappy people that buy stuff from Walmart as they do, you know, from Nordstrom or some other Highline brand or whatever? You know, it's all the same. It's all relative. But we're going to see this in 2026 in full display. They're going to e-coms psychologically, you know, hammer this all into our brains. We're going to fall in love with next year because 2027 is just going to be a huge question mark. If they're going back to old previous designs or whatever, then that's going to be it's going to be boring, you know. And they need to ramp up into one of the most product protected years, 2026, and you know, they're going to sell everything. They're going to sell everything. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to take full advantage of what we got going on here for the 250th anniversary. And there's not a damn thing that we can do about it. We just have to learn to accept it. We have to buy the product and fall in love with it, which, gosh darn it, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that anyways, right? I'm going to buy presets and insets and all that great stuff for next year, and I'm going to pay more money than I think it's worth. But, you know, worth is all in money. As far as collectability and things that I do like, I like it and I collect it and I'll buy it for what it is and what the price is, and I'm just going to have it socked away in a sock drawer, you know, if that makes sense. So that's why I want to talk about a little bit of kind of like website, US Mint website observation that maybe you guys aren't fully aware, and how it might tie into the gauntlet that is 2026. So thank you guys for tuning in. It sure was a pleasure just hamming it up with you to kick off the week. We're nearly halfway through the year, and that is unprecedented because, you know, it wasn't just, you know, 5 months ago that we were talking about, oh, we're a year away from 2026. And the absolute just friggin' gauntlet that is going to be that year. So we are halfway to our objective. We're halfway to what I feel like is going to be like a fun ass year. And I wanted to bring more light to that. And we're going to talk more about this as we get closer. Things get a little bit more zanier. And, you know, hopefully you guys will enjoy the collectability and what's to come, even if you aren't totally bought in with the ridiculous prices that we expect to see. So thank you again. I'm Sean with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget, keep on collecting, my friends. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.